The Deep Six. 6 stories from your world in 30 minutes or less. Hosted by Patty Steele and Steve Cochran. The Deep Six is on.
Welcome to the Deep Six. I'm Steve Cochran in Chicago.
And I am Patty Steele in the New York City vicinity.
You always say vicinity. You're in New
Yeah, I
York.
don't know why, because I feel a little bit like I'm lying if I say I'm in New York City and I'm looking out at, trees covered with snow or something.
I don't think we're geolocating you. I think it's okay to talk about the fact that you're in New York.
I'm Patty Steele and I am live from Paris.
Yes,
that
which
okay?
is near New York, depending on how drunk you might be.
Close enough.
All right, so here's the deal. We give you 6 stories to talk about, and we're going to start with number 1.
A good place to start.
The Deep Six. Story number 1.
Prayers for the people of Ukraine. And like you, I am so inspired and moved by the courage we've seen and frankly continue to see. But honestly, we should have seen this coming because Seinfeld was the key to us knowing what the future would bring. Ask me why.
Why? I said what, but why?
Yeah, here's why. I'm going to play a clip for you from Seinfeld. This goes back to the 90s, obviously. And this is Newman and Kramer on the subway. They're playing a game which is sort of like Battleship, but apparently they didn't want to pay for the rights fee to Battleship. And the people who made Battleship didn't want to do some sort of payment for product placement.
Right. And I'm sure it's very sensitive knowing those two.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So this is a world domination game that Kramer seems to be winning. You'll see how Ukraine gets worked in here. This is on the New York subway from Seinfeld, a key to the future, and we didn't even know it at the time.
Or is it because I've built a stronghold around Greenland? I've driven you out of Western Europe, and I've left you teetering on the brink of complete annihilation.
I'm not beaten yet. I still have armies in the Ukraine.
The Ukraine. You know what the Ukraine is? It's a sitting duck, a road apple, Newman. The Ukraine is weak. It's feeble. I think it's time to put the hurt on the Ukraine.
I come from Ukraine. You not say Ukraine weak.
Yeah, well, we're playing a game here, pal.
Ukraine is came to you, but I take your little boras.
And with that, he pounded Kramer and Newman into subway submission. We should have seen it coming.
How long ago was this? Like 95, I'm going to bet.
Maybe 95 might even have been a little before that. But don't cross a Ukrainian. Don't make fun of Ukraine because you're going to have to pay.
Yes, exactly. I love that. That's we've seen plenty of that strength, haven't we? It's
no
amazing.
question about it. All right, let me shift gears slightly, but this is also not here, it's there. A world leader who is 95 years old, and she's back out there. I'm talking about the Queen, Queen Elizabeth. You like the Queen?
I love the Queen. You know what I love about her? She's a chick. She's not just some stuffy grandma who, put that down. I'll have a glass of sherry, please. She likes to toss them back. She's like a drinker,
I'm glad you said that because I did not know this. You may have, but the Queen loves dirty jokes.
And dirty martinis.
Yes. Did you know she was a dirty joke fan or were you profiling?
I was profiling.
Yeah.
You know what? I think I kind of a little bit expected that of her. She's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it's like everything else. I go back to I'm a Lincoln fanatic.
Yep.
He always talked about the fact that, with everything going on in his life, and I'm sure in hers, if you can't laugh, you can't survive. And that's kind of where I expect her to be.
So a royal insider, you know how they can be, told the story the other day when the Queen came back from COVID about a man named Sir Donald Gosling, a good friend of the Queen's, who was known to tell her dirty jokes, which she roared at. She loved them.
On command.
However, on one occasion during a naval ceremony, Mr. Gosling was seated a chair away, one seat away from the Queen, and the Labor Defense Secretary, a man named Fred Mully, was in between them. Well, Fred didn't know the Queen was in on the joke. He didn't know the Queen didn't need his protection.
Uh-oh.
So there's Mr. Gosling telling the joke. The joke, by the way, involved a horse trainer giving Viagra to a runner in this particular race. And the naval minister, put up his hand to stop Don and totally broke the rhythm. It said Her Majesty was furious and berated the naval secretary for ruining the joke. She wanted to get to the punchline, which, by the way, somehow involved a horse winning against stiff competition. Remember, Viagra was involved.
Oh, yes, of course.
So the queen loves a dirty joke. And
she doesn't like the rhythm to be spoiled. We know
Right,
that.
right. How great is that? And I could be wrong about this, but I seem to remember at one point, I don't remember the ceremony, but the queen looking up and telling whoever she was with at the time to pull my finger. Go ahead, pull my finger. So we should have seen that coming as well.
Right. Especially because she does. They say that she has several drinks a day. She's a big gin drinker. And so every evening, she begins the evening rather early with a nice little gin and tonic. And then it progresses. And she likes wine as well. So I can imagine she gets a little randy towards as the evening progresses. By the way, did you know that she's moving?
She's moving. Where's she going?
She's out of Buckingham Palace. She's going to go full time to Windsor, the double wide she's got over at Windsor Castle. And the question that I have is like, that's a big palace. Buckingham Palace has like a bajillion rooms.
Yeah.
Like, who packs all that crap?
Oh, she does. She does.
I'm thinking that she does, because she's not going to call in the college hunks. She's going to say, oh, my pottery and my little teacups, I need to wrap those myself. I can't
Another newspaper for the crown jewels.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah, that's funny because your impression sounds like an upscale British woman. Mine does sound like Mrs. Doubtfire. You're right. I totally
yeah.
agree.
So it's a good question. I mean, man, here's the thing. Like, I moved into the house I live in like 6.5 years ago. And the other day I said, I've got these boots I'm going to wear to work and they're not very polished looking. Where's like your shoe polish to my husband? And he goes, haven't seen that since the last house. Wow. And I said, really? Like, you haven't polished your shoes in 6.5 years? And then again, neither have I guess. And he said, yeah, you know what? It's probably in a box somewhere downstairs. She's going to run into that like 1,000 times over, because I think she's got a lot of clothes. She got all those hats.
Sure.
She got those crowns and all those jewels and stuff. Not to mention, I know she's fond of knickknacks and family photos.
Do you think she's sending footmen to the local grocery store to see if they have cardboard boxes?
The local liquor store.
Yeah.
Bring them with the liquor. I'll empty that out, and then you can start packing.
Well, God bless her. In 95 years old.
95 years old. And here's the problem. At Buckingham Palace, they're doing a huge makeover of Buckingham Palace, but they're not going to finish till 2027.
Oh boy.
She'll be 100 years old. That's kind of not fair to her.
Oh boy.
Wouldn't you say like, hello, 95? Could you like maybe speed up the redo, or maybe wait a few years until
wait
I don't
a little bit? Yeah.
need it?
Yeah. Wait a little bit. But man, what a cool rehab show that's going to be on HGTV. Right?
The Property Brothers, the Palace
Property Brothers trying to convince the Queen that she needs to move her vanity.
That's right.
I got one more in entertainment for you, and that's we have not one, not two, but 3 Oscars hosts coming up shortly, as a matter of fact.
Will that make you watch it more because there's 3 of them, or is that?
I like the idea of a host. There's some who've done it extremely well. I always thought Billy Crystal was phenomenal. Steve Martin and Alec Baldwin together. I thought they were pretty entertaining.
I like Ricky Gervais, but I don't think he ever did that. I think he did Golden Globes.
He was Golden Globes. I was the only Oscars I ever attended was when David Letterman hosted. I was a Letterman fan beyond belief, so I probably
how did you get tickets to that? Wow.
Yeah, I'll tell you a quick story. Here's the only name dropping I'll do on this episode, as far as we know. It was when Tom Hanks had won his 2nd Oscar. So you go back into the media section, everybody gets to ask questions, and they're all the generic questions that everybody asks. Right. I step up to the mic and say, Tom, after 2 Oscars, does this completely kill the idea of a bosom buddies reunion? And he laughed. He came off the podium, or the riser, because he didn't have much of a stage, right? Right. And came over and jumped on me and hugged me. And he goes, oh, thank God you're here.
That's better than a name drop. That's like really cool.
It's a good story, yeah. All right, so here are your hostesses: Amy Schumer, Wanda Sykes, and Regina Hall. Regina Hall is a great actress. Wanda Sykes, very funny woman, but sort of downbeat. Right. Amy Schumer is the loud one. I don't get the chemistry between these 3. Am I missing it?
Amy just had liposuction and really has talked about it a lot. She looks terrific. I don't think that you need to have chemistry. You know why? Because my understanding is they're each going to handle a different hour.
Okay.
Which is kind of funny because they said they've shortened the Oscars. So they're going to hand out a whole bunch of awards before they even start. And they're going to film it and tighten it up and throw that on, which means it's still going to be 3 hours long. It's just that it's not going to have as many awards handed out. So they're going to still do either a lot of yapping or they're going to try to entertain us in some fashion. I don't know. But I don't know if it's a chemistry thing. I do know I just read an article. They were interviewing John Hamm about this new project that he has coming out. And he said he was actually up for the possibility of hosting, but he said he was really sad because he didn't get it. And I kind of love that he admitted that he didn't just say, oh, yeah, they wanted me to do it, but I said, no, thanks. But he said, I really wanted it. And they decided they didn't want me.
Well, and that would have been probably a pretty good move. I think he'd be a great host.
I think he'd be a great host because he is, first of all, as we know, very self-effacing.
Yep.
He is not bad to look at.
No, so
that would make me turn it on.
Yeah, so you say.
Yeah. And plus he's got this new project. He's also in the new Top Gun Maverick that's coming out.
Is that movie ever coming out? Hasn't it been done for like 30 years?
Yeah,
or something?
no. Didn't it come out last summer? No,
I don't even know.
It is coming out it's coming out May 27th. So they say.
The Deep Six, number 2.
We like to give you one of the stories at least, or one category where you learn something from the Deep Six.
God, I think you learn something in every category, but go ahead.
Well, you could be right. But every generation thinks they're cool. We all think we're the cool ones. We invented it all.
No, we are the cool ones. We need to
so, but you know what I'm saying? That our thing is nobody did it before us. I have some words in a list here from a story that I found really fascinating, and this will kind of make us a little more modest in some ways. It's from Mental Floss, which is a very entertaining way to waste time if you have time to waste.
I know, it's the best.
and this story involves 16 words. We won't do all of them, but 16 words that are way older than you realize.
Oh,
okay?
Interesting. Okay.
All right. The first word is unfriend. What is the first documented use of unfriend?
Facebook.
I would think so. Turns out it goes back to 1659, which is just before social media was invented, I believe. I think 1670 is when MySpace started, if I remember correctly. But 1659, here's the quote written by a Brit. I hope, sir, that we're not mutually unfriended by our differences. How about that?
That's really, I was going to say that's cool, but wouldn't I have to say that's chuggy or cheggy? What was that?
Oh, I remember that from the story we did not long ago.
Yeah, I don't even know how to say it, let alone, but that's supposed to mean uncool.
We didn't learn from one of our learning segments.
Okay.
All right, next category, or the next word. It's actually 2 words. It's hang out. Hang out.
Yeah.
Hang out. When did
I would say 1964.
Yeah, it sounds like a word that would have come out of the 60s.
Right.
A little before that, 1837.
Wow. Really?
Charles Dickens wrote, here's the quote, I say, old boy, where do you hang out?
Wow.
I told you stuff is
and the way he says it would lead me to believe that wasn't actually the first usage because he must have heard it somewhere, but it was just never recorded. Wow.
Now,
I love Dickens.
there's always been a way to try to use words that may not be acceptable, but they're not the curse words that you want to say. Friggin' is one of those words.
Oh, I use it all the time. Yeah. You friggin' jerk.
I would have thought friggin' was just something that we've been kicking around for 20 years, 30 years, maybe.
Right. Just to not say the other one.
It goes back to the late 1500s.
What?
Yeah.
What did it mean then?
Here's a quote. This shunting friggin' new arrangement of yours has got every flaming thing foxed up.
I like that entire sentence. I'm going to need to get that.
It sounds like those bad TBS overdubs, on movies where they can't do the cursing.
I'm going to need that in a meeting at work. I'm going to just say that exact sentence, but I don't even remember what you just said.
Yeah, just throw your hands around and go, this shunting friggin' new arrangement has got every flaming thing foxed up.
Yes, they've changed things at my radio station, so I am 100% using that in the next meeting.
How about tricked out? Tricked out.
Yeah.
I'm getting some from hip hop rap.
Yes, but I'm going to I'm going to be wild here and guess it came from the 1920s.
The 1500s.
What is the deal with the 1500s? They were going to town with new words.
They were very hip. Trick has been used as a verb meaning dress, adorn, or decorate, going all the way back then. But during the 1500s, it all shows up at various times with tricked up, tricked off, tricked out. And the usage of tricked out was about a man's apartment.
Oh, his apartment is tricked out.
Dude, you really tricked out your flat. All right, let me just give you.
Is that the Mona Lisa?
Yeah, exactly. Let me give you one more. And this one's
Right.
great too.
Okay.
Fly. Fly. You too fly.
Yeah, you fly. Yeah.
Fly means cool, right? So when did fly come around?
Beyonce?
Apparently Beyonce's great grandmother's grandmother. It's been good to be. It's going to be good to be fly since the early 19th century. By the late 1800s, it took on connotations of attractiveness and being fashionable. Here's the use of the word fly. Okay, this goes back to 1879. I'm speaking now of the young men about town who think it's awfully fly to know actresses.
It is fly to know actresses.
How great is that?
That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah, we're not nearly as cool as we thought.
No, or they were way cooler than we thought.
That could be the case.
The Deep Six.
Now we move on to item number 3.
Yes.
We live in difficult times, and you sometimes wonder if you're alone. Well, it turns out it takes all kinds. Patty, educate us.
Well, I'll tell you something. New York City, you're never alone. It is the city that never sleeps. Although I have to say, in the midst of the pandemic, one of the funniest moments was when people started talking about waking up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And they were like, what is that noise outside? They didn't know what it was. And it was birds, because no one that lives in New York had ever heard birds in the morning as they, begin
Sure.
the wake up just before daybreak. And so that was very fascinating to them. But there's other things that people were hearing over the past year in New York. And there's a number here that we can call if we want to complain. And God knows, nobody likes to complain like a New Yorker. You can call 311 in New York to complain about pretty much anything. And they say that they got over 300 complaints between February 2021 and February 2022 about loud sex. And they said the complaints ranged from grievances over loud moaning sounds
Sure.
to worries about orgies being held nearby. And one person
Would the worry be that you weren't invited?
Right, exactly.
Right.
Well, one person actually looked out into the garden outside their apartment, and there's like a open, group space where they were having group sex out in the garden. So they didn't like that. And one woman called up to complain about the ceiling shaking and said debris is falling as the result of a sexually active neighbor.
Okay, so that's got to be someone who could drop a few pounds, or you live in a crappy apartment with
Or
stuff
somebody
falling off the
just
ceiling.
wildly excited.
Yeah.
Just a very happy person.
Well, I would have thought you would have told me even earlier than that, because obviously there was more time to do it during the quarantine. But as previously established on an earlier episode of this show, The Deep Six, people didn't want to have as much sex early on during the quarantine because we were all sweaty and ugly.
Or because they were being listened to by their nosy neighbors.
Yeah.
There is that. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to loud sex, and maybe this is the problem in this story, a 31-year-old model claims she was kicked out of an Airbnb by a prejudiced host. She said this guy suffers from hot girl phobia. Susie Cortez says she spent $1,000 on an Airbnb apartment in January so she could visit her family in Brazil. She said she was there less than 48 hours before the male kicked her out, threw her belongings in the trash, all because she is just too red hot.
Isn't that one of those stories where you go, you led me down the path. I'm going, well, that's awful. This poor girl.
Yeah.
And then I immediately went to, shut up.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm
just too hot. And she's suing Airbnb, of course. She says, this is the biggest prejudice and nightmare I've ever lived. I'm extremely embarrassed and I am psychologically shaken and I need X number of dollars. I don't know how much she needs, but it's probably more than $1,000.
Well, but the good news is it takes all kinds, and you found someone for her. Tell me about this guy.
Well, this is a guy, and it actually comes to us by way of a woman who went on Twitter and she wanted to share a very strange back and forth she had with a guy she'd been matched with on Hinge, which is a dating app. In screenshots of their text talk, she asked the guy if he's free to grab coffee at Starbucks. And here's his answer: Starbucks? Yeah, not sure this is going to work. You seem nice and all, but I have standards. Obviously, you don't. I'm trying to build a vision and work towards finer things in life. And that starts with people on my wavelength. Starbucks just effed up. I started to say the word, just effed up the vibe.
Okay, I hate that guy as much as I hate the girl that's too hot for Airbnb.
So let's
They'd
put
be
them
perfect
together.
They'd be perfect.
Right. Except that girl may want to go to Starbucks. And then what does he do?
Oh, listen, they'll be broken up soon, but let them stay together for a while to protect the rest of us. But I don't want to get ahead of myself here. But this last one in this category.
This is your favorite, isn't it? This is the woman
could
you
be
would
one
date.
of the greatest stories ever done anywhere, including here on the Deep Six. Go.
Yes. So this is a chick in Ireland. She's 25 years old, and she decided to replace her pics on Tinder with new ones of herself in costume as her alter ego, Kazoo the Clown. Jess Harkin says she would like to find a clown man with a similar sense of humor. She changed her bio to read, I heard you were just looking for fun. Well, pal, the party's arrived. Where would you like me to set down the birthday cake and chocolate milk? She says she was flooded with messages until Tinder banned her profile due to activity that violates their terms of use. I didn't think anything violated Tinder's terms of use.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. But that clown suit thing, is that like the furries where people have the fetishes that they have to wear costumes to do it?
Yeah, right. Right. She said, here's the thing that bothers her. She said, I've seen girls with more makeup on than I have on and almost nothing else. And so she has appealed the decision.
Well, and I don't blame her for that. My only question again here would be if they did end up fooling around when she's having sex, does she moan or honk?
And what do you do with those big feet?
Exactly.
The Deep Six, number 4.
A lot of people have obviously gone back to work, and you go back to work and it's different, in this hopefully permanently post-COVID world. But what are people saying to people that ask the questions, the survey taking types, about their work happiness?
Well, that's the problem. A lot of people, we all stayed home for a couple of years. I mean, a lot of us worked from home. But the weird part of this is a lot of people just, that whole feeling that you get when you're there in person, like you get the strange looks and you get the, hey, you got to take care of this for me that you weren't getting over Zoom. So a new poll says 63% of workers feel unappreciated by their employer on a daily basis. And 59% say they've never had a boss who truly appreciates their work. Now, all of these people have been employed pretty much for the last 5 years. And at this point, maybe searching for a new job, or they have been working. But they say they would stay at a job with an unappreciative manager as long as their coworkers still recognized and praised their work. Now, here's the question I have to ask. Is it that we have a lot of asses who are bosses out there who just figure, as long as I'm giving you money, you should just be happy? Or is it that we have raised several generations of us who are used to like getting a trophy, even if we're the worst player on the team, we get a trophy because, oh my God, we're so wonderful. But the question then is, are they expecting more from their jobs than they should? Or are the bosses under delivering? What do you think?
I think, and I've had other people argue with me about this, but I think we have created a society of ribbon getters who maybe didn't deserve the ribbon. But the argument I've been given back and heard from other people is, if they all grew up in that, the bosses now are the people that got the ribbons too. So the point being,
right.
I'd be the guy that going, Patty, I've got to talk to you for a second. I don't know if you know this or not, but the way you've done your job lately has not been the way we would like it to be done. As a matter of fact, that deal you blew cost us $80 million.
Screw you. I worked really hard on that. And then boss.
And then I would go, you're right. Here's a ribbon.
Right. Here's a ribbon. And by the way, I need a ribbon too, because I've been a really good boss, even if I didn't inspire you to save the deal.
Yeah.
That's the other problem.
Yeah, exactly right. So maybe it is an expectations thing. I don't put a lot of faith in management coming around. I think maybe we have to have a little bit thicker skin. But you know what? I do my portion of the deep six for my office and my house. So what have I got to bitch about?
Yeah. Do you bitch about me when I'm not around?
Never, not once.
No, never, as far as I know.
Never.
The Deep Six. Number 5.
How could you make money without having to rely on a boss, right? Because if you have
entrepreneurial spirit.
Right. If you've got a jerk for a boss, you're like, okay. And we've all been there when we just kind of look and say, you know what? I'm never going to let anybody control my happiness or my sense of self or my financial purse strings again. So we try to think, okay, what do I have to invent? And there are people who invent like really complicated, big crap, like giant, missile systems and all kinds of electronic
Tesla's
stuff.
Tesla's rockets.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And oh, yeah, so I can talk about the engineering and blah, blah, blah. And most of us can't do that. The weird thing is there are tons of people who invented something really stupidly simple and made a fortune. Now, what got me thinking about that was, I don't know if you remember Suzanne Summers.
Oh, sure. Lovely lady.
Decades ago.
Many times.
Decades ago. There you go. Wow. You know everyone. She was on a sitcom called Three's Company. Like, what was it? The 70s? Probably?
70s. Yeah, absolutely.
She eventually got tossed off for wanting a raise. And she did a couple other things like She's the Sheriff or something like that. But she decided she was going to make her fortune with a side hustle. And it was the Thigh Master. She says she was inspired to make this thing to keep her legs looking great in her Manolo Blahniks stilettos. She said, my husband, one day I walked out in these shoes and he said, ooh, great legs. And she thought, there's something I could do with this. So she invented this little squishy device. It's a resistance thing you put in between your thighs and you push in and then squeeze like crazy until you go nuts. And then you let it out very slowly and you keep doing that. And before you know it, you've got like the legs of a superstar. Mm-hmm. The thing cost $19.95. She sold at least 15 million of them.
Oh, you're kidding. I had no idea.
Yeah. And she still sells them on her website. And now, in addition to that, for $74.99, you can get the Thigh Master system, not only the Thigh Master, but a Butt Master too.
A Butt Master?
Yeah, a Butt Master.
I don't know how it works. Don't you have to go to a special part of the city and know the knock you have to use on the door?
You are the Butt Master.
The Butt
With
Master?
the mask and the whip. I am your Butt Master.
So the Butt Master is to tighten up your cheeks?
Yes. And it comes with an instructional video, which
I'd
like to watch. So, but here's the deal. Now, Joyce DeWitt, who was also on Three's Company and stayed put when Suzanne was let go. I looked it up. She's worth something like $3 or $4 million. And who knows, because those online things are always off, but somewhere around there. But Suzanne and her husband are worth somewhere between $200 and $300 million from their side hustle.
Wow.
So I started thinking about, okay, what other goofy devices have people made a lot of money?
Oh, I like this. Yeah. What do you got?
Well, do you remember the slap bracelet? It's just a little long thing and it has magnets in it. And you slap it over your wrist. That guy
wrap around your wrist.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And it was in all kinds of different decorative things. That guy made like 25 million bucks.
That's pretty good.
There is pet rocks. The guy just took rocks, dropped them in a box and told you to take care of it like it was a dog.
That was huge.
Yeah. He made somewhere
and stupid.
Yeah. Between 15 and 20 million bucks, maybe more.
Wow.
There was the Slinky, 250 million bucks off of just a spring.
And those are still huge.
Oh, they're still huge. They don't work as well as the old metal ones, though.
Yeah.
There's the Flowbee, which George Clooney insists he uses to cut his hair. 200. He's that guy that invented it, sold it like 15 years ago for 265 million bucks.
Well, here's the problem with the Flowbee. You know and love me, but I actually had a lot of hair until the first time I tried to use a Flowbee, and it just hasn't grown back.
It scalped you.
Yeah,
literally.
Yep, it's gone.
Now, one of my favorite things on the list, and there are, I kid you not, at least 3 of them in this very house. The Snuggie. It's a blanket, but with
the
holes
wearable
in it.
blanket from
Exactly.
Walgreens.
Yeah. And then somebody else tried to copy him with the Slanket.
Yeah.
But the Snuggie guy earned $200 million in the first year and a half off of that. And my very favorite is, remember the yellow smiley face? It first appeared they had everything from buttons to coffee cups to t-shirts, sweatshirts, whatever. Yeah. So this guy and his pal drew the smiley face, which is yellow with a mouth and eyes that are smiling. And they coined the term "have a nice day" because no one ever said it until then, I guess. And they slapped it on everything. They made $500 million off of that.
From a sticker?
From a sticker they slammed on a bunch of stuff, t-shirts, sweatshirts. So I'm thinking post-show, you and I need to sit down and figure out some goofy, stupid little thing and push it out there. And then we can tell everybody to go to hell.
Yeah, well, which is really all of our goals.
Which is our goal. Everybody's goal is, I'm going to go in, I'm going to tell the boss, I'm going to tell my significant other, I'm going to tell my next door neighbor to go to hell because I got the money.
Let me ask you something about smiley face. Apple just came out with these new emojis the other day. They keep updating the emojis.
Right.
And isn't the smiley face the cornerstone of the emoji world?
Thousand. Well, that and the heart, all the different parts.
Yeah. I'm just thinking that Apple owes this guy another $500 million.
Could be. Oh, my Lord. I didn't even think of that. Unless they altered the smile. Maybe it's a smile, but it's not quite as friendly as the original.
And can I just tell you something from the Android world? Because you're an Apple, you're an iPhoner.
No, I'm actually an Android.
Oh, you're Android with me. Well, then tell me if you agree with this. When I get text messages from people and they can't even take the time to respond in 5 words, 10 words to my text, and they just loved, and then it's my text quote.
Oh my God, you're talking to me because I do that.
No. But I'm just saying.
But I do that to you. Are you trying to tell me something?
No, because I didn't know I could do that with Android. So I better go back and see what platform I'm on. Because
holy crap. You don't know that you have emojis that you can respond to?
I'm not an emoji guy. I feel that anytime you text me, I should waste as much of your time as possible in the response.
I can't use enough emojis. I can speak a whole nother language. I can text a whole message, long message to people with emojis and never use an actual word. Well, I can send a picture of, dinner, and I can show a table, and I can show chicken, steak, asparagus, pasta, pizza, and then do a little face with questioning eyes. And then everybody says, oh, this is what I want.
Based on your description now, I'd like to take my criticism back. The problem is clearly me.
It's totally you. You're really out of touch. You got to get with the emoji thing.
The Deep Six, number 6.
And our final item is something that I think serves half the population well, and that's anytime women can make fun of men.
Right.
And this goes back a little bit, not that far, but BuzzFeed threw out a question, as they're one to do. And the question was, hey, guys, what are you afraid to admit you like because you might get picked on? Okay?
Yes.
So, we live a more public life. I'm not afraid to admit I like anything. I still cry at Weekend in New England when Barry Manilow sings.
Oh, I love that song. Oh, my God. I forgive you for not liking my emojis.
Well, don't go too far. All right. So I'll throw a few of these out. Here's a guy. I used to crochet and knit, but I found a girlfriend that made fun of it. I had to decide, did I like knitting or the girlfriend better? I picked wrong. We broke up shortly thereafter. How about this? Honestly, I love going to Bath. These are all guys. I love going to Bath and Body Works. And I love this quote. This is a direct quote. Look, I'm a basic bitch for the lovely candles and lotions. I ain't lying.
Does he like lavender or rose?
I'm thinking he's a lavender guy.
Yeah, I'm thinking so too. That's a little more manly, at least.
Well, how about this? I wore a more masculine cologne to go out, but secretly, I'd rather be slathered up in the smell of lavender. And again, the quote, only as a man could say it, that shit smells amazing. Again, the list
that takes him back to a manly expression.
Yeah. The list is things guys love, but they're afraid to admit it. I love candles. There's always 2 in my living room. I get excited to get new ones. My baths are amazing and relaxing. I just wish the candles were a bit larger.
I'm loving this guy.
Yeah, no, listen, he'd be a great girl.
But he wants his candles to be larger. I like that too.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Just to be right. How about guys that order man drinks? Give me whiskey and give it to me in a dirty glass.
Oh, you know what's funny is when we go out to eat, my husband Steve
Uh-huh.
will always order like these like neon blue or pink drinks with parasols and straws. And I like bourbon, so I'll order a shot of bourbon or something simple. I don't like sweet drinks and I don't like them mixed. I like ice in them, but that's where I stand. And I got to tell you, easily 90% of the time, they put the bourbon in front of him and they put the pink drink in front of me.
Yep. I don't doubt that at all.
Now, here's an interesting thing. We were just talking about this today at work. We have an assistant producer on our show. And we were talking about, and I don't even remember why, we were talking about 50 Shades of Grey, the book / sort of book and sort of movie. Not very good. But, and this kid, 25 years old, said he'd never seen them. And another producer on the show said, "Oh my God, you got to see that." And he said, "No, it doesn't really appeal to me." He said, actually, and he said, "Well, what kind of books do you like?" And he named, and I can't remember her name. Sorry about that. This author who writes what he calls romantic beach reads for 40-something women. And he said, I really love that stuff because it's not just like raw kind of sex, throw it out there. It's also romance. And he said, I like to see the evolution of the romance. And the producer looks at him and goes, "Oh my God, I got to get the other producer, I got to get a hold of you." I said, "Your girlfriend is very lucky because I think it's," but he got a little pink in the face and a little defensive, and I don't blame him. And I said, "You know what? Just be who you are, own it." And I think that's very cool to me.
But hide your Fabio action figure at your house. The last couple here, I'll just go through these quickly. The fruity drinks that the ladies like. Here's a guy that says, those tall boots that women wear in the fall? I wish they had men's version of those in size 13.
Ew. Okay.
Yeah. And then this is as honest as it gets. A guy who says, "I work in construction. Sometimes I go home and just enjoy a good cry."
Oh, I'm with him. That's actually, you know what? I love that he's in touch with that because otherwise you let that build up inside and all hell will break loose eventually.
Sure.
Let it out, baby. You cry as much as you like. I'm good with that.
You've gotten the Patty Steele stamp of approval, you construction crying baby.
You can sob as much as you like. I will bottle your tears.
I'm Steve Cochran in Chicago.
I'm Patty Steele, somewhere around New York City.
That's what we heard. Thank you for listening to The Deep Six.
It was great.
Thanks for listening. The Deep Six. Subscribe, rate, follow, or review at pattysteele.com or cochranshow.com.